Hey YouTube, Brian LCS, thanks for stopping by the channel and this video, Spider-Man number 5 review. So we're going to jump into the story. This is the Dan Slott end of Spider-Verse storyline. It is a new ongoing series. We've been talking a little bit about that. But before we jump in, let's take a look at the creative team. So like I said, Dan Slott writing, Mark Bagley pencils. And there is the rest of the team, inker, colorist, letterer. And so this is kind of going to be a little bit of a what-if type issue. So in one of the previous issues, in this whole end of Spider-Verse battle against Shathra, we saw Peter Parker, Spider-Man, the 616 Spider-Man, get severed from the web of life. And what basically we saw his body unravel. And so at the end of last issue, we came across now in the 616 a Peter Parker. And so in this issue, we're going to kind of get a little bit more information about him. Now, what we find out is that Peter is continuing along his path, you know, being a scientist and you know, very interested in you know, science and engineering, but he doesn't get bit by the spider. So he's on his field trip with his class at the laboratory, but he does not get bit. Somebody else does. And so now we're cutting back to high school, and we see that Parker's still having, you know, his usual trouble with Flash Thompson. You know, he's kind of picking on him, and, you know, Peter is kind of still the outcast and the, you know, kind of bookworm science nerd and doesn't fit in with the cool kids. But, you know, we see a teacher step in when Flash is giving Peter an issue. And Peter basically says, hey, look, you know, no big deal. You know, I slept and Flash was helping me up. You know, and Flash, you know, thanks him for that. You know, and then we see Peter at home with Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And we see, you know, they're watching TV and that there is some new spider character that is out and about in the city, and we see J. Jonah there taking his sights on this new spider vigilante. And then we see a burglar break into the home, and we think, you know, maybe we're going to see Uncle Ben get shot under obviously different circumstances this time. But what happens is Peter jumps in and actually takes the bullet, and then Uncle Ben knocks out the intruder. And, you know, he is captured, but Peter is now shot and injured. He's hanging on, and we cut to him in the hospital, and he was shot in the leg, and, you know, he's going to survive. But, you know, he's going to have some, you know, some issues with his walking. And so a kind of a real, like I said, a different take on, the Peter Parker story now that he wasn't bit by the radioactive spider. And we see now he's back in school and he's still being picked on. He's got a crutch. But we see Flash step in for him when somebody else was picking on Peter. And then basically Flash comes to, you know, his rescue because of the earlier pass that Peter gave him with one of the teachers. And so we see Flash and, you know, Peter becoming, you know, good friends. And, you know, Peter begins to help Flash with his schoolwork. And then we see that there's a girl that's interested in Peter. And now they're, you know, they're hanging out and going out. We have Aunt May and Uncle Ben watching on saying, wow, you know, look at Mr. Popular or Peter, you know, being, you know, the smart kid. And he's also, you know, got a group of friends. And so we see that, you know, the relationship continue. And then we see Sandman break into the school. And then Peter kind of has a flashback from the burglar. And we see one of the teachers standing up to Sandman. But then we see Silk, and that's been the, you know, spider vigilante that's been roaming the city, helping people. And she springs into action and takes down the Sandman. And Peter is really kind of amazed by her, power and, helping with others. And then we see J. Jonah outside saying, the whole menace thing, and Silk, swings off. And again, the story continues, and, Flash and Peter are getting along. Peter is really helping Flash with his homework, and Flash is, excelling. He's doing really well at school, and, he's the big sports guy, basketball team. And so things are going really well for Peter and Flash. But Peter is really infatuated with Silk and the Spider character. We see her here battling the Lizard. And so, he continues to work on his science, and he's basically building a Silk tracker. And he finds out where Silk is and basically tracks her down. And then he basically, wants to make a deal with her and says, look, I want to be your tech guy. I want to help you, fight some of these villains that you've been encountering. And so we see a series of events where Peter is designing some tech and gadgets for her. And it really helps Silk take down a number of, classic Spidey villains, the Vulture, Mysterio, Kraven. And then we see, like I said, Flash and Peter's relationship continue to excel. And Peter wins a science contest. And then we see them, graduate, and they're both going off to college, and everybody is so proud. And in walks, Norman Osborn. He wants Peter to come work for him at Oscorp. And so flash forward now, or fast, I'm having trouble speaking today. Fast forward, and now Peter is Employee of the Month at Oscorp. He's doing really good things. And this is where we get the story tying in. He's working on an experiment, kind of an interdimensional, travel or gate. And we see something come through, and it's a bunch of spiders saying, help. So to be continued. So, and there's a side story in here with Monica Rambeau. I won't get into that, kind of a backup story. We'll stick to the main Spider-Man story. This was not what I was expecting from this issue. I really thought the end of Spider-Verse storyline was going to continue. They kind of took a side with it, kind of this B story of the existence of Peter Parker in the 616 without being Spider-Man. Like I said, kind of it really felt like a what if issue. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story, a little change of pace. Like I said, I did not expect it. Like I said, felt like a what if story. But interesting to see what if Peter Parker didn't become Spider-Man, if he didn't get bit by the radioactive spider, what would happen to him? So, assuming that, we'll get back on track with the end of Spider-Verse story, but this was a, complete, left turn and really kind of a side story. So overall, I enjoyed it. I didn't look ahead, so I wasn't really expecting this. So when I first jumped in, I was like, oh, what is this? But it did work out. I did enjoy it. It's always interesting to see what, could have happened if Peter did not get bit by a radioactive spider. I'm sure we wouldn't really care too much about him in the world of comic books or superheroes, but here we are. We'll go with, looking at my 5 web system, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. We're going to go 3.5. 3.5 web heads. I enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty fun. Although I would like to see the main end of Spider-Verse story move along, this was a fun little detour and a fun little story to, give us a little bit of background on the Peter Parker 616 without being Spider-Man. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know down in the comments what you think. If you've read this story, what did you think of this issue? And we'll see you for issue 6. Thanks for watching.